My name is Ethan. In the summer of 2014, I tried to take my own life. Then during the time between 2014 and 2016, I tried several other times. During this time, I was with the Child and Adolescent Mental Health Services, or CAMS for short, throughout my teenage years to the age of 18, where I was then put through to the Adult Mental Health Service. To me, I felt like I was just given medication and sent on my way, to the point of not wanting to be on medication because I felt like it didn't help and I didn't need it. Through most of my life, mental health has always been shown in either myself or my family members, with my mother having bipolar disorder, a disorder in which the sufferer can have extreme highs to extreme lows, to other family members having depression in the past to present day. I have always wanted to talk about mental health because to me it is such a taboo topic to bring up in normal conversation, as it can be seen as something that is off-putting at times and can change the mood of social interaction. I want this production to shed light on something that has always surprised me in recent years, and that is how about people will always portray those who have committed suicide and those who are no longer with us, instead of how they portray people who have attempted suicide and are still alive. How did they cope? Do they feel the same as they did when they first tried? In this feature, you the listener will hear real life stories of people who have tried to commit suicide, but failed their attempts and are currently living their lives today. All of the identities of the voices have been hidden, and everyone who has taken part in this production have consented to have their stories shared with both me and my peers, and this presentation will be made public if all participants have agreed to their personal lives being broadcasted. To start off with the feature, I went to visit my mother, who in the past has had experiences with her own mental health and raising children with a mental illness. So I went to my childhood home to have a one-on-one conversation with her to have an insight to my mental health and how I presented it at a younger age.
You were like willful when you were little, and you used to have night terrors, and the naughtier you were during the day, the worse the night terrors got. And you'd put things in place, like you'd get really angry, even though like I'm not an angry person. You'd get angry over like have a meltdown if things weren't in the absolute right place where you wanted them. But older teenager, I don't know, it's just outside influences, I think, as well. It's not to do with being alternative, which people think. Because of the things you were doing with the night terrors, and like you'd come down and walk into doors and you'd be asleep, and then you'd like say, "Get him off me," even like later on. And they just said he's highly intelligent, he gets bored easily. But you were into computers when you were at nursery, even, and even the school, like they never picked up on it or anything. But the school knew that you were just addicted to computers because it was like in your own world. I think it was the only thing that calmed you down. You know, like with the kids now with autism, they have like tablets because it's their defense mechanism, and they must like escape or whatever. I don't know what it's for, and like they don't like not loud noises and stuff like that. And then when they took you, they just said he's highly intelligent. He just gets bored easy, and he'll do something and he'll get bored with it and he'll want to move on. You need to like give him a lot of attention. But I had another two kids at that point, and I was like, right. And then even said like my mum and dad's interference was bad because they didn't give me credit for what I was doing with you. I was saying, no, you just leave her, get on with it, you're not stupid. Because I'd been poorly in the past, they overcompensated. So they just said, you're highly intelligent, blah, blah. And then it just got worse. And then I went to the doctors again because you were all playing up at one time. And I was like, I need something because I was like exhausted and stuff. And they went, oh, well, I can give you this stuff, but it's like Finnegan or something. It's like pre-med stuff, but they'll end up hooligans. And I went, this is what the doctor said. And I'm like, hooligans, right, okay, but you hooligans anyway. Well, them two are. But you ended up little swines anyway, but you were poorly. You had like the non-pervasive thing. But then I don't know what happened. It was after that time. You were horrible to your brother. I couldn't trust you with him. Like, you'd punch him in the back and he was only little, like toddling. I don't know, you were about 4 maybe. And I used to catch you doing things, and I had to give you more attention than the others, and more time. And I don't know what that was about. But yeah, they just kept fobbing me off. And like I said, you should have been thingied long before being 18-year-old.
The participants were asked these 4 questions. How were you treated when you first attempted? How did others react to it? What shows or film best represent mental health to you? What would you say to someone who has been experiencing suicidal thoughts?
People definitely treat me differently afterwards. My ex, especially, you never really understand that part of it. He felt like couldn't do anything more to help me. He was cheating, so you know what I mean. He didn't really want to make any effort anyway. Then my mum treated me like I had bubble wrap around me. My grandma realised it the most, that I just needed someone to talk to. And she would sit there while I cried, and she would sit there after therapy. She was the strongest person in my life.
I was treated differently by people around me. The care that was provided for me, I felt like everyone judged me. Afterwards, everyone sort of treated me differently, like I was delicate, but I didn't want that.
Understanding. I didn't think they were going to be that understanding, but they treated me with absolute understanding. They were just very lovely and caring. Afterwards, I had follow-up appointments with doctors. I was put into a care plan with a family member, which I had to stay in as well.
Obviously, my friends were very worried and concerned about my well-being and why I wanted to do that, and so I got a lot of very worried messages from friends, and to be honest, it was just friends. My family aren't really. I don't want to say that they're not bothered, because that is not the case at all. They would be very worried if I had contemplated something like this, but mental health is still something that's kind of lost upon them. I first told my sister that I was going to get a mental health tattoo on my body, and she said, why do you want everyone to know that you've got depression? So it's like, so it's kind of like lost upon them, or they're just oblivious to it, and I don't want to talk about it. So there is still kind of like something there about it that families don't really like to talk about it, or they're like kind of like ignorance is bliss kind of people.
Afterwards, I had follow-up appointments with doctors. I was put into a care plan with a family member, which I had to stay in as well, and which I was happy about as well. And some people treat me like they were walking on eggshells around me, and some people overcared, and some people kind of knew the line. They weren't protecting me like I was a China doll, and they weren't asking me if I'm okay 24/7. Some people were just being totally normal around me, which was honestly better than getting asked, how are you feeling 24/7.
From friends, I got a lot of concerned messages, and people told me that I've always been, that they'll always be there for me, and I am on no shortage of that. I am on no shortage of people that care about me and really want me to stay well mentally and physically. So I've got a lot of care in that regard.
During the attempt, it was in front of my ex. He stood there and he just watched in complete disbelief. He didn't run and try and stop me. He was just there. The attempt was very strange for me because it wasn't me. It was an out-of-body experience. It was disassociative, and I just wanted it all to end. He only treated me differently afterwards, whilst it was going on, whilst I was there in hospital. He didn't really care. He wouldn't speak to me. He was very hostile. Anything that he said, he was afraid that it would set off another trigger. I mean, he was a great guy. He just couldn't keep it in his pants. And when you're on the brink of a mental collapse, that's the last thing you need. It still hurts. It was a year ago. Over a year. And it still hurts. Charlie St. Cloud did it for me. Whenever I watch that, I just cry and cry and cry. Because I lost everything. Absolutely everything. I lost a family because I didn't stop myself from attempting suicide. I can't explain it any better than that. I lost everything because I attempted suicide. And without that, I would not be the person I am today. So Charlie St. Cloud, when he sees his little brother, he realises that he has to lose everything to chase everything. A new life. In basic terms, it's you have to lose everything. You have to kill the old you. That's how I felt. You have to kill the old you to make space in your head and in your body for the new you. And that's how I felt. And that's how I always feel that Charlie St. Cloud did, in a more you have to get up and go sort of way. Maybe not suicide, but you have to leave the past. And for me, suicide felt like it was the only way.
A film and show that represents sadness and mental health to me, I'd say Rent. Rent's a movie that I like, And Rent's all about like these people who have AIDS and HIV, and because of that, it doesn't really tell you, but if you look at it, you can tell that a lot of them have mental health issues because of that. And in it, it's actually referenced that Roger's girlfriend commits suicide. But that's a show that represents it for me.
I guess in a way, kind of like films and shows that do make me feel better that aren't about mental health are obviously things like the Marvel films. Those I love tremendously and I watch religiously, and I'm very passionate about. Shows like Brooklyn Nine-Nine, Doctor Who, certain shows, that are funny, kind of really do distract me from a lot of things. So, that things like that really do help me to distract me, but it's a sad fact that not a lot try and actually do it well. And again, I'll just finish this question by saying 13 Reasons Why sucks.
One thing I'd say to others would be get help, get the support, because it's out there. I promise you it's out there. It's out there in your friends, it's out there in your family, it's out there in people that truly care about you. If people brush you off, they're not people worth having in your life. Always remember there's something worth living for. Every 2 months I make a new dream board. So I have a dream board. It has my 3 children. Sadly they're not with me, but they're on there. It has my family, aspirations, my friends, and the reason it just has in the middle why you must survive your own mind. You have to survive your own mind, please, for the people that love you.
So, I just want to say there's always going to be someone there who loves you. Anyone who knows me knows that my granddad isn't my real granddad. He's not my real granddad by blood, but I would do anything for that guy. Plus, I named my son after him, and he's the best thing to ever happen to me, obviously apart from my son. Yeah, that's my story.
Honestly, when you're at that moment, it's crazy and it's weird and it's hard to kind of explain, because it's like every bone, every thought, everything, like every memory you have of your loved ones, of things that keep you going, is just completely wiped. If I saw someone in that situation, I would say to them, I've been through it. I totally understand you. You may not think I do, but out of everyone, I pretty much understand you more than anyone else.
Well, I guess I'd say the same thing that I would say to others that what I'd say to myself. At times, life is going to feel like it's getting too much, that everything is against you, that there is some power that is, making your life a living hell, regardless of how positive you try to be or how low, things get, and you try and soldier through it. There will be times where you'll just feel like bad things just keep getting flung at you, and I feel like that a lot of the time. For me, it's always an uphill battle, and it probably is for anyone listening to this. So I would suggest that you kind of just, keep going, keep struggling, and keep getting up that very, very difficult hill, because one day you're going to get to the top of it and it's going to feel great, and you've just got to keep going and don't let life get you down.
During the time of filming, I noticed something weird. I noticed a lot of participants have been female and not male. This then made me think of the stigma that a man must be strong and able-minded, and they mustn't show their feelings out of the fear of being perceived as weak amongst their friends, family and colleagues. In recent, it has been shed in the media that male mental health is just as important, and that it is okay for men to speak out about their troubles with mental health. So I have asked different questions to male participants, and these questions are: do you believe that there is a stigma to how a man should show his mental health? Do you have any words of encouragement for men? What would you say to a man who has been suffering from a mental health issue?
There is a stigma around it, but I think it's getting better for the subject, and I think it's definitely sort of more comfortable in this day and age for men to talk about their problems that they might be having.
Yeah, I believe that there's some stigma. Just because we're men, everyone thinks that we should man up and get on with it instead of actually speaking out loud about it. Try and make it out as if we're wusses instead of helping us. But yeah, I believe so.
I think when it comes to mental health, guys feel like they need to keep it all to themselves, otherwise they'll get judged, which isn't right.
I think there is a stigma with mental health in regards to men, because there seems to be this thing that men can't cry and men can't let out their emotions, otherwise they're not a real man, and I think it kind of affects your mental health more as a man when you hear this kind of stuff, because you don't want to speak to people, you don't want to listen to people, you don't even want to leave the house sometimes, yet you feel like you have this stereotype around you that makes you out to be this person you're not. So for example, this stigma has affected me in the past. There's been times when I haven't really spoken my true feelings or told anyone about a difficult situation I've been going through, just to not be judged or seen as someone I'm not. I think nowadays a lot of men feel like this, and it's slowly getting better, but I feel like I can speak to anyone now about my feelings without having to be manly or tough.
I think there's often a stigma, as men are expected to put up a tough guise or not discuss their mental health, as people seem to think that's not masculine. But I don't think there should be, because they should be allowed to be open and feel comfortable with being open. And I'm glad that globally the attitude towards said stigmas are seemingly beginning to change.
Ultimately, I think it boils down to this whole a man needs to be strong kind of attitude, but really, I don't think you should want to shy away from your emotions, and I think people should always support you in that sense, that they should want you to speak about it as well.
Speak out loud, don't suffer alone. Come on lads, we can do it.
And if you're embarrassed about your own mental health, don't be millions of people go through it every day. Seek professional help, keep occupied, and speak to your closest friends and family about it. They will not judge.
It's a hard road to go down, and it's only going to get worse before it gets better, but honestly, you just have to stick in there, make sure to speak to the right people at the right time, because you're human like anyone else, and people are going to listen to you, even though it seems like you might not be a manly person if you bring up your true feelings to someone about how you're upset. You can get through this, even if it seems like it's the end now.
To other men, you shouldn't feel ashamed or embarrassed to talk to people or want to get help just because you're a man. Because there's always people who care for you and won't perceive you any differently. No one will think less of you, and you're no less a man, and you're loved, and don't ever forget that.